In 2016, regardless of the weather on Mardi Gras Day, the Rex Parade will be in full bloom. And at the helm is Rex Artistic Director Henri Schindler.
Well, this year's theme is Royal Gardens, and it's a truly extraordinary parade. You know, the flowers in Rex have always been one of the elements that set it apart. And this year, they're just glorious.
Forever, man has tried to surround himself with beauty. Kings and queens and emperors and empresses would design their gardens with every bit as much care as they did their castles and their palaces. Many of those come down to us from legend and early illustrations. Many of them are more modern. So the Rex theme this year takes us to many of these gardens, some of them still with us, many of them only memories.
There's the Garden of Eden, complete with a serpent. And Elysian Fields, in Greek mythology, the final destination or heaven for favored ones, which also happens to be the name of a New Orleans street. An actual green space that exceeds most imaginations is Louis XIV's Versailles. Of course, in the creation of any parade with original floats, there's bound to be a favorite.
I think my favorite float this year is dedicated to William Shakespeare, actually, but it's called Perdita's Garden. As we were preparing this parade, I had a phone call from an English professor here at one of our universities, and he mentioned that this was the 400th anniversary of William Shakespeare. Well, he consulted his other English professors. They went over all through Shakespeare's work, many, many gardens, and they settled on Perdita's Garden from The Winter's Tale. It's turned into a beautiful float and a nice story.
It's hard to pick a favorite, but the floating gardens of Xochimilco in Mexico City is pretty close. The lagoons there are home to the only known species of a salamander, and that is the figure on the front of the float.
While most of the gardens featured remain only in memory or as legend, there's also a tribute to one of New Orleans' most beloved parks.
City Park was begun in the 1850s, but in the 1930s expanded a great deal, and many of its most beautiful elements were added by a beloved sculptor, Enrique Alferez. His figure of a woman with a vase is the key sculpture on this beautiful float.
Longtime artisan Randy Ernst concentrates on the enormous amount of gold leafing that adorns the parade. Raymond Bowie has been working on the floats for 20 years. There's yet another old world touch.
The wooden wheels and the old chassis create wonderful effects of shake, rattle, and roll. They waddle down the street, and everything on them tends to move, and it's a delightful effect.
Kern Studios is responsible for the construction of the floats. For the Rex organization, parade planning is key.
The Rex Den is one of the most remarkable artist studios you could ever imagine. Year-round, this den is active, but the planning goes on for years before that. We anticipate themes several years in advance, sketches starting with rough sketches, and then really very beautiful finished sketches to build these floats each year.
With a rolling tableau that takes great pride in its artistry, the creative process is ongoing.
So when the floats come in off the parade route, everything starts over again. All of the decorations come off, all the sculptures come off, and they're painted over white. And imagine 20 new artists' canvases in a studio, sketches ready to go, the paint goes on, sculptures are brought in, attached, flowers are added, and a beautiful new parade is ready to roll.
And this year's Rex Parade reminds us to everything a season. And this time for Rex, the focus is the flower.